Welcome to Gita reading. Today is a very auspicious day. As you can see, Shri Radha Govinda is dressed up in a very nice costume. Mother Tirtha is having a birthday today, and Gopi family is sponsoring this Gita reading. So let's begin the program with the most favorite bhajan for Srila Prabhupada's presence and pleasure. Jai Radha Madhav Nikunjbihari. So I was told that our sponsors as well as a lot of other guests, they follow us, and when we play Kartal, they also have Kartal. Sometimes they also have Mridanga or harmonium and some other instruments. So every time we sing, they play along with it. Also, I heard that whenever we are offering the food to Lord, they also have something according to their ability. And again, the Aarti, when the Pujari is blowing the conch shell, I heard the children in the sponsor's home, they also blow the conch shell, they also offer the incense and ghee lamp, water and key, flower, chamar, fan, etc. So this is a good exercise, and that's a wonderful thing to do. That what children learn, they see this, and actually they get a chance to worship Shri Radha Govinda directly. So let's chant the Jai Radha Madhav Nikunjbihari. Jai Radha Madhav Nikunjbihari. Jai Radha Madhav Nikunjbihari. Gopijan Vallabha Girivaridhari. Gopijan Vallabha Girivaridhari. Jashodanandan Vrajjan Ranjan. Jashodanandan Vrajjan Ranjan. Jamuna Tira Vanchari. Jamuna Tira Vanchari. Jai Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari. Jai Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सदा भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अंतर्द्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. So let's get some blessings from the Guru Parampara. So in beginning of the introduction of Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada has given us some prayers which helps us in building, speaking of and reading of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kant Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyem. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So this particular verse that we are going to go through today is very, very important because today is a very auspicious occasion of Tirtha's birthday. And whenever one of our friends or family members, they have the birthday, we should read something from the scriptures that can tell us something about the next part of the life. So from tomorrow, that will be a new year, new opportunity, new day, new adventure, and we can think of so many new things that we are actually resolving our heart in order to do that, which is like New Year's resolution and birthday resolution, sometimes they go together. So if you really want to change yourself, then we should pick something from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is that will really help us. So those who are having birthday, it can help this. Those who do not have birthday, but at least a part of the celebration, when they join us, then when we read these particular verses, that will really give a tremendous of push to their resolution, and they will be able to stick to that. Not only that, up to that extent that without any hindrances or obstacles, they will be able to follow up on the promises they are making to themselves as in a form of a resolution. So this particular verse is taken from chapter number 13, and it begins with text number 8. It ends at text number 12. So the verse goes like this: Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshanti arjavam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam mattvavinigraham adhyatmagnani nityatvam tattvagnanartha darshanam etagnanamiti proktam ajnanam yadato anyatha. So there are so many things that mentioned here, and it's a very huge, what you call, purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Even the translation word to word is of so many different words that we should know, because we are going to analyze our life today on the beginning of the new year, that we were born today, and today on birthday, what we should be really looking into and trying to analyze our life, and what areas that we can work on, what areas that we should be changing ourselves. So here is a clear picture is given. Now word to word we will be breaking into so many parts of these verses and also try to understand. It says humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, and self-control. Renunciation of objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, resorting to solitary places, detachment from general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All this I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. So many times we are confused with the words knowledge and ignorance because they sound the same. For example, hinsa is violence, but ahimsa is non-violence. But since we are not familiar with Sanskrit language, for some people it's difficult to segregate from hinsa to ahimsa. Amanitvam means absence of pride, but manitvam means self-esteem. So the pronunciation of a is here important. Ahimsa, amanitvam. Adambatvam. What is that? That is no hypocrisy. When you don't have any hypocrisy, that is adambitvam. But dambitvam means display virtues not possible, no hypocrisy. So even if you don't have any virtues, then if you try to display them, that is a hypocrisy. So the Sanskrit words are difficult to segregate from knowledge to ignorance. And that's why I will give you the set of the words. What is in knowledge? What is that contains knowledge and what doesn't contain knowledge? What is ignorance? So we already saw and we familiar with the knowledge part of it. But ajnana or ignorance, the words are manitvam, dambitvam, hinsa, akshanti, anarjava, acharya anupasana, ashaucham, astairyam, anatma vinigraha, ahankara, asakti, vishwanga, asamchityam, abhakti, anekantavasa, rati, asvikar, adarshan. So here in the verse amanitvam, aditvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, acharyo, pasanam, shaucham, stadium, atma, vinigraham. All those words I took and tried to give you the opposite so that you can also understand what is ignorance. Here, when Lord Krishna speaks, he only is using the words pertaining to knowledge. And in order to make it very short, he says, I just declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to this is ignorance. So what is contrary to this? That you will have to figure out. And that's why I took little time for you in order to figure out that what is that ignorance. So that is a manitva means self-esteem, presence of pride, adoration from others. You expect something from others that, oh, this guy is such a great speaker, this guy looks so beautiful, he's such a great dancer. All these things that you expect from others is known as a manitvam, and that is an ignorance. So here Krishna says one must cultivate amanitvam and not manitvam. The second part was in ignorance, dambitvam. Dambitvam means display virtues not possible in you. You cannot even lift 10 pounds, but you are boasting that you can lift 1,000 pounds. So who will believe that? That is just a hypocrisy. Then akshanti. Akshanti is a word. Shanti and akshanti. The kshanti word is made out of two words. Shanti and kshama. Kshama means to forgive, and Shanti means to have peace. When these two words combine, they become Kshanti, and that's knowledge. But Akshanti, no forbearance at all, that is known as Akshanti. Arjav means simplicity, straightforwardness. And that is why the name of this hero of Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna. There is a word Ruju, and Ruju is simple, transparent, straightforward. And from that word, the name Arjuna was given to Arjuna. It was very straightforward. The other one is a Vakra. Vakra means crooked. When you take a straw and put it in a glass of water which is transparent, you see the straight part of the straw on top of the water. But the straw which goes inside the water, it looks little crooked. That is Vakribhivan. In scientific language, it says it's a crooked. It gives you, the straw is not crooked, straw is straightforward. It is totally straight. But because of some media change, it makes your eyes make it looking crooked. And that is why Arjuna is given the name Arjuna, because Ruj means that kind of transparency in a person. It's not that he's showing himself outside something and inside something else. Out of the water some other kind of picture, and inside the water something other kind of picture. He doesn't do like that. So whatever he speaks, he does. He acts accordingly. Some people, they speak something and they do something else. So that's why there is a big difference between Arjuna and ourselves. Many things that devotees would like to challenge sometimes out of even the scriptures and cannot understand, and they argue over overseas meanings, purports, translations, and understanding. Srila Prabhupada used to say that this is simple for the simpler and crooked for the crooks. Simple for the simpler. Those who are simple, for them this is very simple. But those who are crooked, it is crook. The crooks for crooked. And that is why you have to be very simple. Now the purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent man as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the tenfold elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 20th verse. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19th items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, other 19 items automatically develops within him. So again, you are sitting back home listening, and you may be confused with the figures 20 and 19, 19 and 20. So what is trying to say? That if whatever I am reading here, they adds up to 20. These are the qualities from today. For example, if we decide to cultivate, to develop in ourselves, there are only 20 of them. And they are humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of objects of sense gratifications, absence of ego, and perception of evil of birth, death, old age, and disease. All these are adding up to 20 of them. But Srila Prabhupada points out that there is one thing that out of this 20 very, very important thing is devotional service. If you do everything, right? Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, everything you do. But you don't do any devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada says all the 20 things that you are trying to develop is absolutely useless. Out of 20, 19 things are absolutely useless if one thing, which is devotional service, is not performed by a person. Then all those things, that accepting importance of self-realization and philosophical search for absolute truth, all this that's been described here as a 20 different things to do, certain areas that we can improve ourselves, or you must have all these things. At least one should be equipped in order to become a devotee. So, if you keep practicing, understanding, realizing, and spend all the endeavor and your time in doing these 20 things, but if there is no devotion in your heart, and if you don't perform and do some devotional service, then it is of no use. Now, today's sponsor is Gopi Mataji. She used to be a pujari here. She is still a pujari, but due to this pandemic or whatever reason, she is not able to come and perform her services. But otherwise, she always used to come in time, go in time, and perform her services as scheduled by Srila Prabhupada. We do 6 times offering, we do 6 times arti. So, whatever schedule she had, she followed very particularly and without any pride, very humbly and punctually. So, that's what required, that even one of those virtues will help cultivating all those 19 different virtues. So, at this moment, we think of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Why? Because he has also given us some guidelines in one of his beautiful bhajans. We can always come back to this because this is, we can discuss about 20 different virtues that we have to cultivate, and we can always continue it for the next part of the reading, or we can always come back after this. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that now in old age, deprived of all means of success, humble and poor, Bhaktivinoda submits his tale of grief at the feet of the Supreme Lord. So this is the title is a tale of grief. Why? Because first birthday, second birthday, third birthday, right? 10th birthday or 17th birthday or 20th birthday or 30th birthday, whatever it is. But every birthday passing by, day by day we are losing the opportunity to cultivate all those virtues that we are talking about. And finally we are there where we were before 10 years or 15 years or 10, 20 years. So that is why he says, keep an eye on your life. Jiban means life. Amara Jivan means our life. So keep an eye on that and analyze it, and what good activities that you are doing, what good virtues that you are developing, and what bad virtues you should not be developing, that we have to learn from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he sings a wonderful bhajan in a wonderful Bengali song, and it goes like this. आमारा जीवन सदा पापेरत नाहे को पुण्येर लेशा आमारा जीवन सदा पापेरत नाहे को पुण्येर लेशा पर रे उद्वेग दयाची जेक तुम दियाची जीवेर क्लेशा पर रे उद्वेग दियाची जेक तुम दियाची जीवेर क्लेशा निज सुख लागी पाप नहीं डोरी दयाहीन स्वार्थ पारो निज सुख लागी पाप नहीं डोरी दयाहीन स्वार्थ पारो पर सुख दुखी सदा मिथ्याभाषी पर सुख दुखी सदा मिथ्याभाषी पर दुख सुख करो हमारा जीवन सदा पापेरत नाहे को पुण्येर लेशा अशेष कामना हृदि माझे मोरा क्रोधी दंभ परायणा अशेष कामना हृदि माझे मोरा क्रोधी दंभ परायणा मद मत सदा विषय मोहित मद मत सदा विषय मोहित हिंसा गर्व विभूषणा अमर जीवन सदा पापेरत नाहे को पुण्येर लेशा निन्द्रालस्यत सुकार्य विरत अकार्य उद्योगियामि निन्द्रालस्यत सुकार्य विरत अकार्य उद्योगियामि प्रतिष्ठा लागिया षठ चरण प्रतिष्ठा लागिया षठ चरण लोभ हत सदा कामी अमर जीवन सदा पापेरत नाहे को पुण्येर लेशा एहनो दुर्जन सज्जन वर्जित अपराधी निरंतर एहनो दुर्जन सज्जन वर्जित अपराधी निरंतर शुभ कार्य शून्य सदा नर्थ मना शुभ कार्य शून्य सदा नर्थ मना नाना दुख जरा जरा हमार जीवन सदा पापेरत नाहे को पुण्येर लेशा वार्धक्ये खोन उपाय बिन ताते बिन अकिंचन वार्धक्ये खोन उपाय बिन ताते बिन किंचन भक्ति विनोद Prabhura charanam bhakti vinodam Prabhura charanam kar dukha nivedana kar dukha nivedana हमारा जीवन सदा पापेरत ना है को पुण्य लेशा पर उद्वेग दिया चीजे कतु दिया चीजी बैर क्लेशा हमारा जीवन सदा पापेरत ना है को पुण्य relation. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is in our parampara. He is one of our gurus. And listen to him. But we are reading this verse from 13th chapter and talking about all the good qualities of a person. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is trying to tell in front of Radha Govinda, I am an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble. When he analyzed his life, actually came up with something different. He says, I am an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble. I have never hesitated to perform sinful acts for my own enjoyment. Devoid of all compassion, concerned only with my own selfish interests, I am remorseful, seeing others happy. I am a perpetual liar, and the misery of others is a source of great pleasure for me. The material desires within the core of my heart are unlimited. I am wrathful, devoted to false pride and arrogance, intoxicated by vanity, and bewildered by worldly affairs. Envy and egotism are the ornaments I wear. Ruined by laziness and sleep, I resist all pious deeds, yet I am very active and enthusiastic to perform wicked acts. For worldly fame and reputation, I engage in the practice of deceitfulness. Thus, I am destroyed by my own greed, and I am always lustful. A vile, wicked man such as this, rejected by godly people, is a constant offender. I am such a person, devoid of all good works, forever inclined towards evil, worn out and wasted by various miseries. Now in old age, deprived of all means of success, humble and poor, Bhaktivinoda submits his tale of grief at the feet of the Supreme Lord. So this is just simply amazing, the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur is actually confessing himself. So now we can always go back in order to compare that which area exactly we need to improve. He already scaled out, he already made a rough sketch of it, and he presented as if this was his true story. So, here we go further and try to analyze. As per the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follow. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others, but from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body anything Honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principle of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a taste to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So, unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and live this material enlightenment that is non-violence. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5 years old was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So, for making advancement in spiritual knowledge, there may be many impediments, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulated principles, or the regulated principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Now comes cleanliness. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. This process cleanses the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is a real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to the demands which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. And today only, it is just a coincidence that I have been busy with morning class, and then we also had a sanskar ceremony for a child. And before we give a first grain to the child, I explained the same thing that we are reading right now. And for that, all the Bengali people, over 30 of them, were here, and they were chanting, Sharira Vidyajala, Jadendriya Tayaka, Jive Fele Vishare Sagare, Tar Madhye Jivayati, Lo May Sudurmati, Take Jita, Katina Sansare, Krishna Baladayamo, Karibare Jujay. So Prasad Nanda Dilo Bhai, Sena Mrtabao, Radha Krishna Gunagao, Preme Dako Chaitanya Nitai, Jai Nimai, Jai Nitai, Bhagavata Prasad ki Jai. And then the child was fed a spoonful of sweet rice. So it's just coincidence, but that's exactly what we were reading about. That the tongue, out of all these senses, the tongue is so voracious and uncontrollable that the only solution to control the tongue is to eat Bhagavad Prasad. And today, because today is Tirtha's birthday, we have some substantial paraphernalias, and we made wonderful feast. And not only we offered it during Rajbhog, even 4 o'clock offering, now it's like a 6 o'clock offering also, we are making it as delicious as possible so that Radha Govinda can appreciate it. And that is done on behalf of the sponsorer and as a good luck to Tirtha for her birthday. So similarly, once it is offered and whoever is fortunate to eat that particular Bhagavad Prasad, his tongue will be controlled. That's what the science of this particular devotional service is, this part of the service. So if one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, ears should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, and the nose in the smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service. And it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and the sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on Gita try to divert the mind of reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita but devotional service. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. When one understands that he is not this body and his spirit soul, that is real ego. Ego is there. False ego is condemned, but not real ego. In the Vedic literature, it is said, Aham Brahmansmi. I am Brahman. I am spirit. This I am, the sense of self, also exists in liberator stage of self-realization. This sense of I am is ego, but when the sense of I am is applied to the false ego, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is the real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, to give up the false identification with this body. So, Srila Prabhupada tried to explain us the difference between ego and the false ego. Everyone has ego. It's like identity. But something you are not there, that's a false ego. And that must be dropped from your mind. And you should declare that I am not this body, I am not this body, I am not this body. 15 times a day, Srila Prabhupada used to say this particular sentence, I am not this body. Anything is argued, right away he will bring this point. 15 times a day. So, one should try to understand the discharge of accepting birth. Again, this is very appropriate for the occasion. One should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, accepting death, accepting old age, and accepting disease. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of unborn, the child's stay in womb of the mother, it is suffering, etc., are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. These should be discussed. And as far as disease and old age are concerned, anyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be diseased, and no one wants to become old. But there is no avoiding this unless one have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distresses of birth, death, old age and disease. There is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life. As for detachment from children, wife and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for this. They are natural habits of affection, but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in the full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. So let's take example of this particular family. The mother Gopi, she is the grandma, she is a devotee. And the two daughters, Ambika and Titsa, they are also devotees. And their children, Lakshmi and Jaya and all those, everyone is a devotee. So that's the example. Then when one person becomes devotee of Krishna, Krishna is welcoming the rest of the family also as part of his family. One need not only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Accept the remnant of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and engage oneself in deity worship. This four will make one happy. One should train the members of the family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If one can mold his life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these four principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounce life. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when we understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instructions of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from happiness and distress of family life, because in this world one can never be fully happy or fully miserable. Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate, as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So, one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equiposed in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy, and when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But we are actually in the spiritual position. These things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering, respect, etc., as described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. That is called as a Navada Bhakti, as everyone knows. Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Vandana, Pad Sevana Dasyare, Pujana Sakijana, Atmanivedana. So these are the 9 processes of devotional service. So next we are going to do the Aarti, and like I say, as soon as the Pujari starts the Aarti, those who are sitting home, and if you have provision of a conch shell, blow the conch shell. If you have incense, you can light up the incense and offer the incense. You can offer the ghee lamp and also offer some little water in the conch shell and hanky, the flower petals, and if you have chamar or peacock fan, you can also offer them, and finally offer the conch shell. We'll be chanting the Prem Dhavani, and also will please Lord Narasimha Deva by chanting Namaste Narasimha, and we'll think of Srila Prabhupada, glorify him again once more, and then we will depart. But so today it was a very good study that the process should be followed naturally when one is adapted to spiritual way of life. He will not want to mix with materialistic man. That will go against his gain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. So, naturally a devotee has to test for unnecessary spotting of cinema going or enjoying some social functions, because he understands that these are simply waste of time. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other object, but according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work and philosophical speculations have no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make a research to understand with what the self is concerned. That is recommended here. As far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that Bhakti Yoga is specially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least not in the bhakti connection or conception. The devotional conception of life, this service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal, nityam, as is clearly stated. So, bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction, otherwise it is only a waste of time and ignorance. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this is explained. Vadanti tat tattva vidatam. Those who are actually knower of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in three different phases of Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the last one in realization of absolute truth. And that's why we have to gradually realize Bhagavan. So it will start with Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and finally the Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan is Sri Krishna Bhagavan. So we have to realize Krishna ultimately. But you may begin with Brahman realization or Paramatma realization. That is okay. So this arti is known as the Gaura Arati, and we'll be singing it together, and also those who are home can play that mridanga or kartal and be ready for offering the arti. Shri Radha Govinda Deva ki jai, Gitarini ki jai. Ki bajayo jaya Gaura Chande Arti Kushoban. Ki bajayo jaya Gaura Chande Arti Kushoban. Janvi Tatman Jaguman Loba. Janvi Tatman Jaguman Loba. Dakshina Nitai Chan Vam Gadadhar. Dakshina Nitai Chan Vam Gadadhar. Nikate Advaita Shrini Vasachatra Dara. Nikate Advaita Shrini वास छत्र दारा। बसियाचे गौराचा रत्न सिंहासन। बसियाचे गौराचा रत्न सिंहासन। आरती कोरेन ब्रह्मा आदि देवगण। आरती कोरेन ब्रह्मा आदि देवगण। नरहरि आदि कोरी चामर दुलाय। नरहरि आदि कोरी चामर दुलाय। संजय मुकुंद बासु घोष आदि गाय। संजय मुकुंद बासु घोष आदि गाय। शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल। शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल। मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाला। मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाला। शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे। शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल बहु कोटि चंद्र जिनी भजन उज्ज्वल बहु कोटि चंद्र जिनी वदन उज्ज्वल गल देशवन माला कोर जल माला गल देशवन माला कोर जल माला शिवा शुक नारदा प्रेम गदाग शिवा शुक नारदा प्रेम गदाग भक्ति विनोद देखे गुरार संपादा भक्ति विनोद देखे गुरार संपादा की बजयो जय गौराचंद आरती को शोभा की बजयो जय गौराचंद आरती को शोभा जानवी तटवन जगमन लोभा जानवी तटवन जगमन लोभा Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः, हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः, यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः, यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः, गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन, गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन, गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन, गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन, श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता, श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता, हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता, हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता, श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, जय राधा गोविंद राधा गोविंद राधे, जय राधा गोविंद राधा गोविंद राधे, जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय, जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन, प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद, नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र सदा भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की, भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की, अंतर मायापुर धाम की, वृंदावन धाम की, तुलसी देवी की, भक्ति देवी की, समावेद भक्त वृंद की, गौ प्रेमानंदे, all glorious to assemble devotees, all glorious to assemble devotees, all glorious to assemble devotees, all glorious to Guru and Gaurang. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. प्रहलाद लाद दायिन हिरण्यकशी पूर्वक्षः शिलटन्तान् खालाय इतो नृसिंहो परतो नृसिंहो यतो यतोऽयमिततो नृसिंहो बहिर्नृसिंहो हृदये नृसिंहो नरसिंहां गदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव कर कमल वरे नखां अद्भुत श्रृंगार दालिता हिरण्यकशिपु कानुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Nrsimhadev, 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 Jaya Nrsimhadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्री राधा गोविंद देव की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. So thanks for joining today for Tirtha's birthday. We had an excellent reading and wonderful aarti and prayers for Lord Narasimha. So we wish all the best for Ambika family, Tirtha family, as well as Gopi family, and we'll see you in a short time. Hare Krishna.